Well, I'm Alvin, and the thing in my life that has made me live on the margins is that I have a mental illness, a severe and persistent mental illness, which means that it has affected major parts of my life over a long period of time, is what that means. When I was younger, two significant things happened when I was in grade school. The first one was in second grade. My second grade teacher told my parents that she thought that I had a lot of anxiety and that could benefit from seeing someone about it. And of course, that was never talked about at all. I never even knew about that until years later. And then in fifth grade, I did really well on the standardized testing. I think it was, Iowa Basic Skills or something, whatever it was. I scored really high on that, and everyone talked about that. So nobody talked about the anxiety. Everybody said that, life should be easy for me. I should be able to write my own ticket, And then when I wasn't doing as much as people thought I should be, they said, why not, criticize me for wasting the gift that God had given me, sort of thing. But anyway, after, I did actually really well in high school. I first drank when I was in seventh grade, and that didn't work out well at all. I got horribly sick, and why I ever drank again, I don't know. But I did later on. But anyway, when I was 10th grade, maybe 10th grade, I think, I discovered cannabis. And that was just after it had been pushed into Schedule I, and it was supposed to be such an evil thing. And the very first time I used it, it did something really good for me. So I knew two things. I knew they were lying about it, and I knew it did something really good for me. And I used it all through the rest of high school, morning, noon, and after school, and still did quite well. My grades were not straight A's, but awfully close. I was in band and cross country and drama, and was actually the president of the Northern Division of Minnesota Association of Student Councils when I was a junior, with 52 schools under me. Took part in that convention, three state conventions, and 2 national student council conventions. So in spite of using marijuana all the time, and other drugs too started coming in there, I did really well. Anyway, I wanted to have a career in the military, and so after high school I went into the Army, and that didn't work out, and I just didn't know why. I couldn't, didn't know why, but it didn't. And other jobs, the same thing. In the end, didn't work out, and I didn't know why. Employers always liked me. I'm pretty sharp. I pick up on things really fast. I always probably missed a little bit more time than they would have liked, and I didn't know why. Anyway, so that was high school. At the end of high school, I should say that I knew I was going into the Army, so I thought I should learn how to drink alcohol. And so I did start drinking, and I did get sick a lot, and learned even more when I was in the Army to drink. But it got to the point where quite often, if that first beer went down good, I was going to drink until I puked and passed out. And it wasn't every day because my body couldn't handle it. I couldn't come back that quick. But alcohol was a problem for off and on for several years. And I first became aware of 12-step groups like Alcoholics Anonymous when I was about 21, and went in and out of them until I was about 35, until I finally quit drinking. And that is thanks to God and the things that I've learned in 12-step groups like Alcoholics Anonymous. And the biggest thing they did is they gave me permission to come up with my own definition of God. And that was so helpful to me, to move away from my family's understanding and to develop my own. So I'm coming up on 29 years now since I've had a drink, alcoholic beverage. So anyway, once I was sober, things were supposed to go better, right? But they didn't. I still struggled to and I had a good job, but I struggled with it, and in the end, I got injured, and because I was a sole employee, and they didn't want somebody that had any restrictions, and I had just some minor restrictions. That put me onto a workman's comp claim that stayed open for quite a while. I actually started, which was just an absolute blessing for me, because I could not, I didn't know why, but I couldn't work anymore. I just couldn't. Anyway, so I was pretty bored then, so I started back to school. I thought that was going to be my problems and solve my problems. And about a year or so into that, I was feeling really bad. I knew something was really wrong with me. It was dizzy and lethargic and fatigued, and just felt like crap all the time. So I got in a situation where I had some medical insurance finally. I hadn't for a long time, and started going to doctors, and I was certain, there was something really wrong, and so they started doing all the usual tests for physical things, and cancer or heart disease or a myriad of things that they thought could explain my symptoms, and then they all kept coming back negative, and I was about 40 years old by this time. Anyway, somebody said you should take a MMPI, which is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory that's used for diagnosing mental illness. And I said, well, you know what, that would be a waste of time. That's the one thing I am certain is not wrong with me. But then finally I said, okay, I'll take it. And of course that did come back. And it said that I have panic disorder with depression and agoraphobia. And at this point I would add social phobia as well. So I had spent 40 years of my life living with this and wondering why things didn't work out the way they should have. I wonder sometimes how different might have my life been, if I was taken to somebody for treatment right away in second grade, but I do understand that that's where society was at that time too. So, but anyway, so I kept going to school and started to deal with that, and I went through a lot of different med trials, and most of them turned out kind of crappy. And then I started seeing a psychologist for quite a while, and that was helpful. And then I went back to a psychiatrist and saw both for a long time, and finally came up with an antidepressant that works good for me. So years went on, I ended up married again. I guess I didn't say before, one of the things that hasn't worked out in my life is marriage. So I have more than one divorce. But anyway, after a couple divorces when I was younger, I married again, and was married for quite a long time, but I did end up divorced again from that. And that's just one of the things that just didn't work out, and I didn't know why, but now I do know that mental illness has a lot to do with why those relationships didn't, in me and in them, because of the people that I pick, kind of thing. So anyway, I had been married for quite a while, doing better, but kind of not really, and then things started actually getting worse, and the VA put me on a benzodiazepine, clonazepam, which is a tranquilizer, and pretty nasty stuff. And at that time, when I was on that, I got to a point where I just was so close to dead that I just, boy, I tell you what, I really was. First off, on the clonazepam, when I was walking, I had to think about walking straight or I would circle to the right, for whatever that's worth. But anyway, I had these headaches that would last for 24 hours, that the pain was so bad that I would throw up. Almost every night I had just severe intestinal cramping where I just almost wanted to die, such painful stuff. And I'd had the D word for years, seriously for years. And my joints were shot and they hurt like hell, and some of them were needing to be replaced. And I just one day got to a point where I call it my Shawshank Redemption moment, where I realized it's time to either get busy living or get busy dying, and I wanted to live. So I made 3 changes. I changed the meds that I was on. I got off of that clonazepam, and I switched to cannabis, and I will say that has saved my life. I truly believe it has, along with a couple other things I'll talk about. Getting off the clonazepam, wow, I tapered off for 70 days, and it still I was like you see people in heroin withdrawal for like 2 or 3 days. I was like that for almost 2 months, that sick. And lots of withdrawals for 2 years. So that was nasty, but and cannabis helped me through that, and I'm very glad to have gotten away from that, and I really feel for other people that have been involved with benzodiazepines because it's so incredibly physically addictive. But anyway, I am very grateful to be off of that, and I figured that if I can take that 3 times a day, that horrible stuff, it can't be bad if I use a little cannabis instead a few times a day, and it has been so much better. And then I changed my diet. The second change was I changed my diet, and I don't know if I said this, I weighed over 250 pounds at that point, and I wasn't trying to lose weight. I wasn't trying to look better. I just wanted to feel better. I wanted to know, gosh, am I eating something that makes my GI symptoms so incredibly bad? And so I went on an elimination diet where I started dropping things off one at a time. And it turns out a lot of the things I dropped off. I will say when I stopped coffee, I was hoping that wouldn't make a difference, but it did. And so I haven't drank coffee for several years now. This is about 8 years ago now that these changes were started. But anyway, the cannabis is a good medicine for me, and I did go 20 full years without using any cannabis, so I have that time in my life to compare now and then too. So I know that it's not making me worse. It's not making me horribly lazy or lethargic. I actually probably have more energy now than I did back then. So anyway, the third change is I changed the people I hang around with. So, and I mentioned the one was a divorce, unfortunately, and she had such an incredibly negative attitude about everything, and I felt really bad, but after a while, I just could not be around it anymore. So that was one change. Another change was I am agoraphobic, and I had basically stayed at home for years, except for occasional doctor visits and a brief shopping trip here and there. Otherwise, I had been nowhere for years, stayed at home. And so changing the people I hang around with just meant starting to hang around with some people. And then I became aware of, first I should say, I have been back and forth in church in my life, and I was to a point where I didn't believe that I would ever go to a church again. I had just felt so judged and so disappointed, and I just didn't think I ever would. And then I, one day out of frustration about what was going on in the political environment, I typed "Jesus is a liberal" into the search bar on my phone and ended up at the website of the First Congregational United Church of Christ in Brainerd. And I started reading some of the sermons the pastor had given, and I decided I should go and check this out. And the first time I came was really difficult. I sat for 5 minutes out in my truck trying to open the door. It was just too heavy to pick it up. And finally I got it open, and I came in. Since then it has gotten much easier for me to come in, and I tell people that they have made my door handle much lighter. It's been really good to find a group of people where I feel accepted and welcomed and not judged. And they've just been really good friends. It's been a place where I've been able to develop community, and I believe that for mental health is one of the absolute biggest necessary things, is to help people get to some positive community. And the 12-step groups like Alcoholics Anonymous are great community for that sort of thing. And I have found community here at the church, and since then, I have branched out and through the church done some projects out in the community and that sort of thing, and that's been very good for me. I find that I still have some pretty severe disabilities, but I find that when I am starting to complain about what's wrong with me to God, He doesn't ever take that away. He just distracts me with somebody else. And when I start getting into their stuff, my stuff goes away a little bit. So I'll just wrap up by saying the miracle is not God coming down and curing me from my panic disorder and taking all this stuff away. The miracle is He's able to use me in spite of my panic disorder.